Let's bring in our regular Monday panel, Simon Banks and Peter McGoran. Gentlemen, good to see you both. Simon, a very difficult day for so many Australians today. Particularly, we think of members of the Australian Jewish community and their thoughts looking back to 1 year ago today, the sadistic and appalling terror attack that was perpetrated on Israel.
Yeah, an awful crime was committed in Israel a year ago today, Kieran. The Jewish community should be the focus of today's events. I think we need to be very thoughtful and mindful of the real pain that they've gone through. 1,000 plus Israelis lost their lives. Of course, 250 odd were taken terrorist by Hamas and related forces. And there are still over 100 of those who have not been accounted for. The first thing I think we should do is note the terrible events of the day, the killings, the rapes, the other crimes that were committed by Hamas. But also we need to, first and foremost, call on Hamas unconditionally to release those hostages.
Yes, indeed. That's such a huge factor in this, Peter McGoran. And then as we reflect on that appalling event in Israel, it's been such a difficult event around the world, but the rise of anti-Semitism in this country has been so regrettable and incumbent upon all leaders, members of the media and others to stamp that out, Peter.
Exactly so, Kieran, to organise protests pro-Palestinian on the 6th and 7th of October is unmistakably to celebrate the slaughter and depraved behaviour of the 7th of October. And here in Australia, we have to face up to that. It's an incredibly calculated move that blows up multiculturalism, Kieran. There's a lot of big issues and questions and divisions for us ahead because as disappointed, shocked even as I am at the lack of moral certainty and the ambiguity introduced by the Prime Minister and senior ministers, where are the voices of the Islamic leaders, of the Muslim leaders of our society? I can't hear a single one. And yet we have protesters celebrating the 7th of October. If they were marching on the 27th of October, which is the date of the IDF incursion into Gaza, I could understand that so very well. So let's not kid ourselves. There has been moral weakness at the top, but it stretches right through the Muslim and wider community itself.
Simon, Parliament's back tomorrow, and this issue, foreign policy, Middle East and other matters, often they are issues of bipartisanship. Not right now, because as Peter alluded to, there is criticism being levelled at the government. Josh Frydenberg reiterated that on this program last hour, saying that the protests we're seeing today wouldn't happen under a government that showed leadership. And he says that this government's abandoned Israel in its time of need, Simon.
Unfortunately, I think that's a facile analysis. The simple truth is there would be people, unfortunate as it is, protesting today, and no matter who is in government. That's the simple truth. And I think it's time that some people on the right of politics recognise that. Australia is in lockstep with our allies, the United States, and across Europe, Canada, New Zealand, in relation to our response, not only to the events on October 7th, but events that have taken place since. The people who are diverting from that are, in fact, the right or the left of Australian politics. And I think most Australians, and I think if you look at the Resolve poll today, have figured that out loud and clear. They want the war to end. They want people to stop the violence. They want the hostages to be freed. But they don't think an endless cycle of violence accelerating on into infinity is the solution to this problem. And they want Australians to be peaceful here, back in this country, and they don't want the violence coming here either. And racing up, pushing up that type of rhetoric doesn't help that problem at all.
With Parliament to return, Peter, you would imagine this issue is going to dominate much of the attention as it is right around the world right now.
Yes, look, it is true, as Simon says, incredibly complex, incredibly difficult, both from a domestic and foreign policy point of view for world leaders. But the fact that we're in lockstep with other nations who are utterly confused and as morally ambiguous as each other is really no franking of our Prime Minister's behaviour. I'm completely confused by Biden. One day we fully support Israel. The next day, stop the bombings in Lebanon. So unless there was from the start a clear appreciation of the needs of Israel's self-defence, then we're all going to end up confused and divided societies, and that's what's happening throughout the Western liberal democracies.
Peter McGorran, Simon Banks, gents, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.